I really tried my best, please watch the video until the end.
Deep ocean pressure crushed against my massive dark form. Cold currents shifted around the heavy purple tentacles. This new biological vessel offered absolute tactical power. System notice: the SSS-Rank Kraken Singularity is active. Glowing violet rings ignited across my long, thick appendages. I felt the heavy gravity bending around my physical core. I pushed my massive body upward through the dark liquid. The dense water instantly warped around my suction cups. Every single movement required precise physical calculation. System alert: gravity anchor mechanics are fully online. Small, dark voids opened within the center of each sucker. I understood the sheer destructive potential of this power. I extended one heavy tentacle toward a massive coral reef. The solid stone structure began to vibrate under the force. This dimension could not handle my pure gravitational pull. I activated the primary anchor on the nearest rock pillar. Massive chunks of stone compressed into a tiny, dense sphere. The heavy material vanished completely into my dark center. System log: target mass successfully absorbed and deleted. I needed a much larger target to test my ultimate limits. Faint vibrations echoed from the distant surface above me. Heavy engine sounds penetrated the thick oceanic layers. Humans always brought their noisy machines into my domain. I propelled my massive body toward the bright surface light. The surrounding water temperature increased by several degrees. My tactical sensors locked onto a massive aerial transport. A massive armored zeppelin floated slowly above the waves. The loud propellers pushed heavy wind across the blue ocean. They thought the open sky provided absolute safety from me. I breached the ocean surface with zero unnecessary splashing. Cold, salty air rushed against my dark purple glowing skin. The sheer scale of my true form blocked out the bright sun. I raised a single massive tentacle high into the open air. The military Zeppelin attempted an immediate evasive turn. Their pathetic mechanical engines lacked the required thrust. System alert: target locked within primary gravity well. I activated the purple rings along my extended long limb. The air pressure around the flying machine dropped instantly. I wrapped my heavy tentacle over the thick metallic hull. The reinforced steel plating groaned under the kinetic force. I did not intend to simply crush this primitive transport. The tiny black holes inside my suckers engaged their pull. A violent spatial distortion warped the surrounding clouds. I watched the massive airship lose its structural integrity. The entire back half of the vessel folded inward on itself. Hundreds of tons of metal compressed into a tight cylinder. The loud crunching sound echoed across the empty horizon. System log: target mass reduction sequence is initiated. The giant Zeppelin shrank down to the size of a small car. Intense friction generated a bright flash of thermal energy. I felt absolute control over the fundamental laws of physics. The compression continued without any signs of slowing down. The entire enemy transport became a perfect metallic sphere. It was now no larger than a standard human football. I pulled the dense object directly into my dark central maw. The compressed matter vanished into my internal void space. System notice: the dimensional absorption finished perfectly. Total silence returned to the calm surface of the blue sea. I lowered my giant purple limb back into the cold water. The enemy forces lost their best ship in mere seconds. I needed to find the rest of their pathetic naval fleet. My internal sensors detected multiple heavy acoustic pings. Several armored destroyers approached from the eastern side. They tracked the sudden disappearance of their aerial unit. I sank below the waves to prepare my next tactical strike. The deep ocean swallowed my massive form without any trace. System alert: multiple hostile targets detected right now. I spread my 8 heavy tentacles across the dark sea floor. The violet rings pulsed with a steady and rhythmic energy. I calculated the exact trajectory of the approaching ships. The lead destroyer crossed directly over my hidden position. I fired a concentrated gravity beam toward the ocean surface. The dense water column shot upward with incredible velocity. The kinetic impact struck the bottom of the heavy warship. The massive steel vessel lifted completely out of the water. System log: gravity anchor successfully attached to ship. I activated the spatial compression field around the target. The destroyer stopped moving and hovered in the empty air. Invisible forces crushed the thick armor plating like paper. The forward cannons snapped off and folded into the center. I watched the proud warship collapse under its own weight. The crew had absolutely zero time to understand their fate. The entire ship reduced down to a tiny black dense sphere. I opened a small dimensional rift right above the dark ball. The compressed matter instantly vanished into the deep void. System notice. Second hostile target completely eliminated. The remaining ships immediately reversed their heavy engines. Panic spread rapidly through their primitive command networks. They realized their conventional weapons were entirely useless. I decided to show them the true scale of my absolute power. I pushed massive amounts of energy into my central gravity core. The ocean around me began to spin in a violent dark vortex. A massive whirlpool formed directly beneath the fleeing fleet. The powerful current dragged the heavy ships backward quickly. System alert. Maximum spatial distortion field is active. I raised all 8 glowing tentacles above the turbulent waves. The sky darkened as my gravity bent the incoming solar light. I targeted a low-flying cloud bank just above the human fleet. The atmospheric moisture instantly froze under the sudden pull. I grabbed the entire storm cloud with my spatial appendages. The massive weather formation compressed into a solid ice ball. I hurled the dense frozen sphere directly at the command ship. The kinetic impact shattered their main armored command deck. The massive vessel lost all steering and drifted helplessly. System log. Enemy command structure completely neutralized. I wrapped my longest tentacle around the broken metal hull. The black holes in my suckers began their final hungry work. The remaining steel structure folded inward with a loud crack. I felt the satisfying weight of the compressed mass vanish. Only 2 small escort ships remained on the churning surface. They fired a desperate barrage of heavy underwater torpedoes. The explosive projectiles sped through the dark, cold water. I simply activated a passive gravity shield around my body. The torpedoes hit the invisible barrier and stopped instantly. System notice. Hostile projectiles captured in the well. I reversed the spatial polarity and sent them flying backward. The weapons struck the escort ships with devastating precision. The sudden kinetic blasts knocked the entire crew unconscious. I did not need to waste my dimensional energy on broken trash. The damaged vessels slowly sank into the deep oceanic abyss. I retracted my glowing purple limbs back into the dark water. The violent whirlpool slowly dissipated into a calm, flat sea. System alert. Sector completely cleared of hostile units. I hovered silently in the freezing depths of my new territory. This entire ocean now belonged to my absolute singular control. No human military force could ever challenge this dark power. I felt my internal core expand with the newly absorbed mass. My physical density increased beyond standard biological limits. The surrounding water pressure meant absolutely nothing to me. System log. Evolution parameters updated with the new mass. I closed my sensory organs and drifted in the silent current. The process of total global domination had finally initiated. A new acoustic signature echoed from the deep oceanic trench. A massive biological entity approached my designated territory. The local apex predators apparently wanted to test my strength. I welcomed the opportunity to harvest more organic materials. System alert. Giant Leviathan-class monster is detected. The massive beast possessed thick armored scales along its back. It opened a giant jaw filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth. I remained perfectly still and waited for its initial strike. The creature lunged forward with incredible biological speed. I deployed a single purple tentacle to intercept the attack. The tiny black holes flared with intense gravitational energy. System log. Spatial lock engaged on the organic target. I slapped the side of the monster with my glowing appendage. The kinetic force alone shattered its heavy protective scales. The creature thrashed violently in the dark, freezing water. It realized too late that it could not escape my physical grip. I activated the full suction power of my dimensional anchors. The massive beast began to shrink rapidly in front of my eyes. Its heavy bones cracked and compressed into a tight, dense ball. System notice. Organic mass reduction sequence is active. The giant predator became a tiny sphere of concentrated flesh. I pulled the dense biological orb directly into my central maw. The rich organic energy flooded through my dark internal veins. My physical size expanded by another 10 meters instantly. The ocean floor trembled as my heavy tentacles hit the ground. System log. Maximum physical threshold is fully expanded. I needed to consume significantly more matter to reach the top. A distant underwater volcano vented hot gas into the deep sea. The thermal energy offered another excellent target for my pull. I swam toward the active geological formation with great speed. The boiling water rushed past my thick purple armored skin. I placed my heavy appendages directly over the volcanic vent. System alert. Extreme thermal energy detected at anchor. I opened the dimensional voids and began to absorb the magma. The liquid rock compressed into a tiny glowing sphere of heat. I swallowed the dense fiery orb without feeling any discomfort. My internal core temperature stabilized at a much higher level. This planet possessed endless resources for my rapid evolution. I sensed another human fleet approaching from the northern sea. They brought massive aircraft carriers to hunt the sea monster. System notice. High-level mechanical targets approaching. I prepared to show them the absolute futility of their actions. I rose slowly from the deep trench like a dark ancient shadow. The surface water began to boil from my internal thermal heat. I breached the ocean's surface directly in front of the carrier. The massive steel wall of the ship towered high into the sky. I slammed 4 heavy tentacles onto the massive flight deck. System log. Primary gravity anchors locked onto carrier. The entire military vessel tilted dangerously to the left side. Fighter jets slid off the angled deck and crashed into the sea. I activated the spatial compression field at maximum intensity. The giant carrier groaned loudly as its structural frame broke. Thousands of tons of steel folded into a perfect metallic cube. I tossed the dense metal block into my dark dimensional mouth. System alert. Massive inorganic matter is fully absorbed. The remaining escort ships turned around and fled in pure terror. They finally understood that this ocean belonged only to me now. I sank back into the comforting darkness of the deep blue sea. They would certainly launch a heavy nuclear strike against me. I welcomed the massive influx of raw radioactive thermal energy. System notice. Radiation absorption protocols are online. I began to construct a massive gravity well across the sea floor. The entire planetary ocean would soon become my personal weapon. I felt the tectonic plates shifting beneath my heavy tentacles. The absolute power of the singularity rested within my dark core. Humanity had absolutely no chance of surviving this new reality. System log. Planetary assimilation stage has fully started. I closed my eyes and waited for their final pathetic resistance. The cold ocean currents shifted around my massive dark body. Heavy vibrations echoed from the distant atmospheric layers. The human military finally launched their ultimate weapon. I calculated the precise trajectory of the incoming missile. The heavy nuclear warhead breached the calm ocean surface. A massive column of boiling water erupted into the open air. I did not attempt to evade the descending metallic cylinder. System alert. Critical radioactive payload is approaching. I raised 3 thick purple tentacles toward the bright sky. The tiny black holes inside my suckers engaged immediately. Intense gravitational forces warped the surrounding liquid. The falling nuclear missile hit my invisible spatial barrier. Kinetic energy dispersed harmlessly into the freezing water. The primitive detonation sequence triggered inside the shell. System log. Extreme thermal expansion event has initiated. A blinding flash of pure atomic fire ignited the dark depths. Millions of degrees of heat attempted to vaporize the ocean. I pushed maximum power into my central singularity anchor. The expanding nuclear fireball suddenly stopped its growth. My spatial voids pulled the violent explosion backward fast. The massive atomic blast folded inward on its own center. System notice. Radiation containment protocol is fully active. The blinding sphere of fire shrank down to a tiny bright dot. I compressed an entire nuclear detonation into a small marble. The dense glowing orb radiated immense amounts of raw energy. I swallowed the concentrated atomic fire without hesitation. Searing heat flooded through my thick biological dark veins. My internal core absorbed the massive radioactive payload. System log. Core density increased by 300%. The surrounding water temperature dropped back to normal cold. Humanity just fed me the exact energy required to evolve now. My physical mass expanded rapidly across the dark sea floor. Thick armored plates formed along my massive purple tentacles. I possessed enough raw power to challenge their entire world. System alert. Stage 2. Planetary assimilation is unlocked. I tested my new strength by slamming a tentacle into the dirt. A massive underwater canyon formed instantly from the heavy hit. Boiling magma rushed out from the freshly opened tectonic wound. I ignored the burning heat and absorbed the raw earthly power. System log. Geothermal energy extraction is running smoothly. The ocean boiled around me as I consumed the liquid hot rock. My internal singularity core spun with terrifying violent speed. I felt the fundamental laws of physics breaking around my body. Gravity itself bowed to my absolute and singular command today. I propelled my heavier form toward the distant western coast. The deep tectonic plates cracked under my sheer physical weight. Every single movement generated massive underwater shockwaves. A vast network of steel cables blocked the continental shelf. The humans deployed an extensive submarine defense perimeter. Dozens of silent mechanical hunters waited in the dark trench. System notice. Multiple submerged hostile targets detected. The enemy submarines fired a synchronized barrage of torpedoes. Hundreds of explosive projectiles sliced through the cold sea. I did not even bother to activate my primary gravity shields. The heavy torpedoes struck my armored skin and shattered fast. Dull explosions barely scratched my thick biological plating. I extended all 8 glowing limbs toward the hidden fleet. System log. Spatial compression field is fully operational. The deep ocean pressure multiplied by a factor of 10,000. I watched the advanced submarines instantly crush themselves. Thick titanium hulls crumpled like fragile pieces of dry paper. The trapped human crews perished before they could even panic. Massive chunks of military hardware compressed into tiny balls. I pulled the dense metallic spheres into my dark central void. System alert. Submarine defense grid completely neutralized. Several scout ships tried to flee the dark massacre zone now. They engaged their emergency thrusters to escape my heavy pull. I extended my spatial field by another 500 miles now. System notice. Expanded gravity well has captured new targets. The fleeing vessels suddenly stopped entirely in the open water. Invisible chains of pure gravity dragged them backward instantly. I did not even bother to crush these pathetic tiny metal toys. I let the extreme ocean pressure destroy their fragile frames. The deep sea swallowed their broken remains without any traces. System log. All secondary marine targets are fully eliminated. The path to the populated coastal city was entirely clear now. I swam upward along the steep incline of the continental shelf. The shallow coastal waters barely covered my massive dark body. Heavy waves crashed violently against the concrete sea walls. Bright city lights illuminated the dark evening sky above me. System notice. Major human population center is identified. Millions of primitive biological units swarmed inside the city. Loud warning sirens echoed across the massive urban landscape. They finally spotted my towering form rising from the deep sea. I lifted 4 massive tentacles high above the tall buildings. Glowing purple rings cast a dark shadow over the active city. I targeted a massive steel suspension bridge near the harbor. System log. Gravity anchor successfully attached to bridge. The spatial voids inside my suckers began to pull the structure. Thick steel support cables snapped with deafening loud cracks. The entire bridge lifted completely off its concrete foundations. Hundreds of civilian vehicles fell into the churning dark water. I compressed the giant bridge into a dense metallic cylinder. The heavy structure vanished entirely into my dark dimension. System alert. Inorganic mass absorption completed perfectly. Military helicopters swarmed around my head like annoying flies. They fired heavy machine guns directly at my glowing purple eyes. The tiny lead bullets lost all kinetic momentum near my face. My passive gravity field stopped the projectiles in mid-flight. I released a fast pulse of pure spatial distortion energy now. The invisible shockwave struck the flying machines instantly. System notice. Aerial targets caught within the gravity well. The helicopters slammed together with extreme violent force. Burning metal debris rained down upon the panicked city streets. I pushed my massive body forward onto the solid concrete ground. The harbor infrastructure collapsed completely under my weight. I turned my attention to the massive central power plant now. Thick smoke plumed from the tall concrete cooling towers above. The facility generated electricity to power the entire region. I needed to add that electrical current to my growing storm. System notice. High-energy electrical grid is now identified. I slammed 3 heavy tentacles into the main reactor housing. The concrete shell shattered to expose the glowing nuclear core. I activated my suction cups and pulled the raw plasma outward. Millions of volts of electricity surged through my dark skin. System log. Extreme electrical energy absorbed and processed. The entire coastal city went completely dark in a mere second. Panic screams echoed through the blacked-out urban streets. They were trapped in the dark with a massive cosmic monster. I wanted to consume the towering skyscrapers in the city center. System log. Primary target lock engaged on urban structures. I wrapped my longest tentacle around a massive glass building. The structural integrity of the tower failed almost immediately. I activated the black holes along the edge of my heavy limb. The top half of the skyscraper folded inward with a loud crunch. Glass and steel compressed into a tiny sphere of dense matter. I dropped the concentrated building block into my dark open maw. System alert. Massive structural consumption is successful. The humans deployed their heavy armored tank divisions quickly. Dozens of heavy cannons aimed directly at my exposed dark core. They fired a coordinated volley of armor-piercing heavy shells. I did not block the incoming attack with my spatial barriers. The heavy shells struck my biological armor and bounced away. I decided to erase their entire armored battalion from existence. System notice. Maximum gravity well is deploying right now. I slammed 2 heavy tentacles directly onto the broken asphalt. The solid ground fractured directly beneath the heavy vehicles. A localized black hole opened in the center of the main street. The immense gravitational pull dragged the heavy tanks forward. Thick metal treads ripped apart as the machines slid helplessly. I watched the entire armored division fall into the spatial void. System log. Enemy ground forces completely eliminated today. The heavy tanks compressed down to the size of small metal coins. The street was left completely empty and silent after the strike. Supersonic fighter jets arrived from the distant northern base. They dropped a massive payload of bunker-busting heavy bombs. The explosives rained down upon my exposed biological dark head. I did not look up to acknowledge their pathetic aerial strike. System alert. Multiple heavy kinetic projectiles are incoming. I generated a localized spatial distortion right above my head. The falling bombs entered the warped space and completely froze. I reversed the gravity polarity and launched them back upward. The heavy bombs struck the fighter jets with perfect accuracy. System notice. Hostile aerial squadron is fully destroyed now. Flaming wreckage crashed into the ruined skyscrapers around me. The human military possessed nothing that could ever hurt me. I continued my slow and destructive march into the city center. Every single step shattered the concrete foundation of the earth. I felt the raw physical power surging through my expanding body. System alert. Evolution threshold is approaching maximum level. The human military command finally realized their absolute doom. They initiated a desperate evacuation of the remaining civilians. I could not allow valuable organic matter to simply escape me. I raised all 8 massive tentacles high into the dark sky now. The violet rings pulsed with an incredibly bright, blinding light. System notice. Global spatial anchor sequence is now active. I projected a massive gravity dome over the entire coastal city. The invisible energy barrier locked down the entire urban sector. A heavy passenger train tried to breach the dark spatial barrier. The speeding locomotive slammed directly into the invisible wall. The kinetic impact instantly crushed the front of the engine. Hundreds of metal train cars derailed and piled up violently. System log. Escape attempt denied by the active gravity well. I extended a single tentacle toward the massive burning wreck. The black holes activated and pulled the train into the air. Twisted steel and screaming humans compressed into a tight ball. I absorbed the dense metallic sphere to fuel my dark inner core. System alert. Minor organic and inorganic mass is assimilated. No one could leave the designated consumption zone alive today. I began to pull the very atmosphere out of the enclosed space. The air pressure dropped rapidly across the trapped metropolis. System log. Atmospheric compression is functioning perfectly. Millions of humans collapsed as oxygen left their weak lungs. I did not care about their pathetic biological suffering at all. I only required their physical mass to fuel my next evolution. The city began to lift off the ground under my sheer dark power. Concrete foundations ripped away from the deep planetary crust. System alert. Continental mass extraction is fully initiated. I watched the towering buildings float slowly into the empty air. The spatial voids in my suckers expanded to their absolute limit. I compressed an entire human metropolis into a single dense ball. Loud sounds of crushing steel echoed across the dead silent sea. Millions of tons of matter folded into a perfect dark sphere. System notice. Urban center successfully absorbed and deleted. I pulled the compressed city block directly into my dark core. The sheer influx of energy forced my biological form to mutate. My 8 tentacles split and multiplied into 16 heavy limbs. The glowing purple rings changed into a deep crimson-red color. System log. SSS-Rank. Singularity has evolved to the next tier. My total physical size now rivaled the tallest mountain peaks. The ocean itself seemed shallow compared to my massive new form. I turned my gaze toward the center of the human continent now. They possessed a massive underground bunker hidden in the desert. System alert. High-density military target located inland. I refused to walk across the land to reach their hidden base. I simply aimed my heavy crimson tentacles at the distant horizon. I activated a long-range spatial tunnel through the atmosphere. The air tore open and revealed a swirling, dark dimensional rift. System notice. Spatial wormhole successfully established now. I pushed my massive body directly into the swirling black portal. 3,000 miles of physical distance vanished in seconds. I emerged from the rift directly above the dry, barren desert. The intense solar heat baked my thick, armored biological skin. System log. Environmental temperature shift detected safely. The hidden underground bunker rested exactly 2 miles below me. The humans thought thick layers of solid rock kept them safe. I slammed all 16 heavy limbs onto the cracked desert floor. I channeled maximum gravitational pull directly into the Earth. System alert. Deep planetary crust extraction is fully active. The solid rock beneath my tentacles began to liquefy rapidly. A giant sinkhole opened up across the entire desert landscape. I ripped the massive concrete bunker completely out of the dirt. The heavy military bunker floated helplessly in the dry, hot air. System notice. Target structure secured in the gravity well. I activated the compression sequence without any hesitation. The thick, reinforced walls crumpled instantly under the pressure. Thousands of elite soldiers were crushed into a tiny, dense ball. I swallowed the concentrated military base to fuel my dark core. System log. High-value organic and inorganic mass consumed. I looked up at the bright blue sky covering this fragile planet. The global assimilation process required a much larger scale now. I needed to consume the actual planetary mass to reach the apex. I aimed my central gravity anchor directly at the bright sun. System alert. Stellar energy harvesting protocol is initiated. I did not intend to pull the massive star toward this world. I only wanted to siphon the raw solar radiation into my body. A visible beam of dark energy shot upward into the atmosphere. The sky turned completely black as I intercepted the sunlight. System notice. Massive thermal energy influx detected now. The planet plunged into an immediate and freezing dark ice age. I felt the massive power of the star filling my dark inner void. My physical density surpassed the limits of this given universe. I was no longer just a biological creature from the deep ocean. System log. Entity classification upgraded to cosmic horror. The earth beneath my heavy tentacles began to crack and shatter. I deployed my 16 limbs deep into the broken planetary crust. The black holes in my suckers latched onto the actual world now. I started to compress the entire planet into a singular point. System alert. Global spatial collapse sequence is now active. The continents folded inward as the gravity well consumed them. Oceans boiled and vanished into the swirling dark spatial rifts. I absorbed the entire mass of the Earth without feeling full. The world was reduced to a perfectly smooth, dense sphere now. System log. The entire planetary mass is completely absorbed. I drifted silently in the cold, dark vacuum of empty outer space. The tiny, compressed Earth rested safely inside my dark center. I needed to find another populated solar system to consume next. My crimson tentacles propelled my massive body through the void. System alert. Deep space navigation protocols are fully active. I locked my cosmic sensors onto a distant bright spiral galaxy. The endless universe offered unlimited food for my dark hunger. I opened a massive dimensional rift across the empty starfield. The true reign of the Singularity had only just begun right now. I pushed my massive form through the dark spatial tear now. Absolute zero temperatures washed over my crimson tentacles. This new galactic sector offered infinite raw cosmic matter. System log. Interstellar dimensional transit is successful. The swirling rift collapsed into a silent point behind me. I scanned the vast empty space for high-density signatures. A massive artificial structure orbited a bright yellow star. The alien civilization built a complete metallic solar shell. System notice, megastructure. Dyson sphere is fully located. They harnessed the entire energy output of their local sun. I required that massive thermal battery for my next evolution. I propelled my heavy biological body toward the metal sphere. My cosmic movement generated severe gravitational shockwaves. System alert. Hostile defensive grid is currently activating. Thousands of automated orbital platforms rotated toward me. They fired concentrated beams of pure green plasma energy. I did not bother to dodge the incoming high-speed barrage. The intense laser weapons struck my thick biological armor. System log. Thermal plasma energy successfully intercepted. My passive spatial barrier absorbed the entire kinetic load. The green light scattered harmlessly into the dark, cold void. These advanced beings possessed incredibly weak military tech. I extended 4 heavy crimson limbs toward the defense grid. System alert. Primary gravity well is deploying immediately. The tiny black holes inside my suckers flared with dark power. Invisible forces grabbed the entire fleet of weapon platforms. The heavy titanium structures crumpled like dry, fragile leaves. I watched their proud defensive ring collapse upon itself now. System notice. Orbital defense network completely eliminated millions of tons of metal compressed into a dense, tight ball. I pulled the concentrated metallic sphere into my central maw. The dense inorganic matter fueled my burning inner singularity. I turned my attention back to the massive solar megastructure. System log. Primary target lock acquired on the metal shell. A fleet of massive alien dreadnoughts launched from the shell. They measured over 50 miles long with heavy armored hulls. I calculated their exact trajectory through the empty vacuum. The alien commanders tried to flank my massive cosmic position. System alert. Multiple high-mass hostile targets approaching. I pushed raw dark energy into my 16 glowing appendages. I slammed my heavy tentacles together in the open empty space. A massive gravitational tsunami rolled outward from my center. The invisible waves struck the approaching alien dreadnoughts. System notice. Spatial distortion field hit the enemy fleet. The sheer kinetic force shattered their heavy energy shields. Thick metal hulls fractured under the sudden extreme pressure. The massive warships folded inward with absolute violent force. I did not leave a single piece of floating debris behind me. System log. Enemy dreadnoughts successfully compressed down. The entire alien armada became a handful of tiny, dense marbles. I swallowed the metallic spheres to increase my physical mass. The path to the giant solar sphere remained completely clear. I drifted closer to the glowing surface of the artificial shell. System alert. Extreme thermal radiation detected from target. The metal surface vibrated as my gravity began to pull on it. I placed all 16 crimson limbs onto the hot titanium wall. The alien megastructure groaned under my sheer physical weight. I activated the maximum suction power of my dimensional voids. System notice. Megastructure extraction sequence is running. The solid metal plates ripped away from their heavy framework. A massive hole opened up in the side of the giant Dyson sphere. Blinding yellow starlight poured out into the dark, cold void. I stared directly into the burning core of the trapped hot sun. System log. Direct access to stellar energy core established. The alien civilization lived on the inner surface of the shell. Billions of biological entities panicked in the sudden darkness. Their entire artificial atmosphere vented into the empty space. I felt absolutely zero pity for their sudden rapid extinction. System alert. Massive biological lifeform termination noted. I only cared about consuming the raw mass of their entire world. I expanded my spatial anchors across the entire metallic shell. The black holes dragged the massive structure toward my center. The giant sphere collapsed inward like a fragile, empty eggshell. System notice. Inorganic shell compression is fully complete. The massive titanium construct shrank into a tiny, dense sphere. I absorbed the compressed metal to fortify my biological armor. Only the naked burning star remained in the empty cosmic space. I prepared to harvest the ultimate source of raw thermal power. System log. Stellar mass absorption protocol is initiating. I wrapped my massive crimson limbs around the hot burning star. The intense solar radiation scorched my thick biological plating. I pushed maximum dark energy into my central singularity anchor. The bright yellow sun began to stretch and warp under the pull. System alert. Extreme gravitational stress applied to target. Rivers of superheated plasma flowed directly into my dark mouth. I swallowed the raw nuclear fire without feeling any discomfort. The massive star rapidly lost its structural cosmic integrity. I watched the bright yellow orb shrink down to a tiny white dot. System notice. Stellar entity successfully compressed inside. I pulled the dense white dwarf directly into my dark inner core. The sheer influx of nuclear energy forced my body to mutate now. My 16 limbs multiplied into 32 massive appendages. The glowing crimson rings shifted into a blinding white energy. System log. SSS-Rank. Singularity evolved to galactic tier now. My physical size expanded to dwarf the surrounding dead planets. The remaining rocky worlds lost their primary orbital anchor now. They drifted helplessly into the freezing dark vacuum of space. I refused to let any valuable physical mass escape my dark grasp. System alert. Stray planetary bodies detected in local sector. I projected a massive gravity web across the entire solar system. The invisible net caught the fleeing planets with absolute ease. I dragged the heavy rocky spheres backward through the dark void. They collided with each other and shattered into billion pieces. System notice. Planetary collision event successfully tracked. I activated the spatial voids to clean up the floating debris. The broken crust and mantle compressed into tiny heavy pebbles. I consumed the dead worlds to satisfy my endless cosmic hunger. This entire star system now rested safely inside my dark stomach. System log. Sector completely cleared of all physical matter. I sensed a massive disturbance in the distant galactic center now. A supermassive black hole anchored this massive spiral galaxy. It possessed ultimate gravitational power in this local region. I decided to challenge that ancient cosmic entity for supremacy. System alert. Supermassive singularity detected at the core. I aimed my 32 glowing limbs toward the bright center. I ripped open a massive spatial wormhole across the dark galaxy. The fabric of reality tore apart with a silent and violent flash. I pushed my colossal form into the swirling dimensional tunnel. System notice. Galactic transit wormhole is fully operational. Thousands of light years vanished in a fraction of 1 second. I emerged directly outside the event horizon of the dark anomaly. The supermassive black hole spun with terrifying violent speed. It devoured nearby stars and crushed them into pure nothingness. System log. Extreme gravitational shear detected in the area. The ancient entity immediately tried to pull my massive body in. I felt the intense pressure tearing at my thick biological armor. I refused to submit to a mindless, primitive spatial phenomenon. I activated my own internal singularity core at maximum output. System alert. Counter-gravity field is deploying right now. My white glowing rings pulsed with blinding, furious raw energy. I extended my heavy tentacles toward the dark event horizon. The two opposing gravity wells clashed in the empty dark vacuum. Space and time fractured around the point of our heavy collision. System notice. Dimensional stability is critically compromised. I wrapped my 32 limbs around the invisible edge of it. The supermassive entity fought back with incredible kinetic force. It managed to rip 3 heavy limbs completely off my massive body. I felt absolutely zero pain from the sudden biological loss. System log. Biological damage detected and instantly ignored. I pushed massive dark energy into my remaining heavy appendages. I forced my own spatial voids to overlap with the ancient whole. The fundamental laws of physics broke down completely around us. System alert. Absolute singularity merge is fully initiated. I began to consume the supermassive black hole from the outside. Millions of years of trapped cosmic matter flowed into my core. I felt my internal density approach the universal maximum limit. System notice. Target mass absorption is proceeding smoothly. The giant galactic core shrank rapidly under my relentless pull. I compressed the ancient cosmic entity into a tiny dark marble. I swallowed the concentrated singularity to evolve my dark form. System log. Supermassive entity is successfully assimilated. The entire spiral galaxy lost its central gravity anchor today. Billions of stars began to drift apart into the empty dark void. I took my rightful place as the new center of this dark galaxy. System alert. Galactic assimilation stage is fully complete. My missing biological limbs regenerated instantly with dark matter. I possessed absolute control over the entire spatial reality now. I decided to pull the scattered stars back into my massive orbit. System notice. Maximum gravity web is deploying across sector. I extended my 32 glowing limbs across the empty space. Invisible chains of pure gravity latched onto billions of suns. I dragged the entire galaxy toward my hungry central dark core. System log. Mass stellar compression sequence is fully active. The distant stars approached my position with violent dark speed. I watched the bright celestial bodies collide and shatter apart. The cosmic dust compressed into a massive bright accretion ring. System alert. Accretion disk successfully formed around body. I absorbed the raw thermal energy from the spinning ring of fire. My physical form expanded beyond all known standard cosmic logic. I required an infinite amount of matter to satisfy this hunger. System notice. Universal consumption protocol is now unlocked. I turned my massive glowing sensors toward the next local group. Thousands of spiral galaxies floated helplessly in the dark void. I prepared to launch my massive body across the dark universe. System log. Intergalactic spatial tunnel is generating now. I opened a massive dimensional rift across the entire dark void. The cosmic fabric tore open to reveal a swirling energy tunnel. I pushed my 32 massive limbs into the dark spatial tear. System alert. Universal transit sequence successfully engaged. I emerged in the center of a dense cluster of ancient galaxies. Trillions of bright stars illuminated my thick biological armor. I sensed the presence of another massive cosmic entity nearby me. System notice. Rival singularity entity detected in the sector. Another apex predator consumed worlds in this distant dark zone. It possessed a massive body made entirely of pure spatial energy. I welcomed the opportunity to test my newly evolved raw strength. System log. Combat protocols adapted for cosmic-level threats. The rival entity fired a concentrated beam of pure antimatter. I deployed a massive gravity shield to intercept the dark strike. The antimatter beam struck my invisible barrier and splashed out. System alert. Antimatter kinetic energy successfully deflected. I retaliated by launching 8 heavy limbs across the dark void. My glowing white suckers locked onto the massive energy creature. I activated the spatial compression field at maximum cosmic power. System notice. Dimensional lock engaged on the hostile entity. The rival predator struggled against my heavy physical dark grip. It tried to shift its massive form into a different spatial plane. I simply anchored my dark singularity to the local fabric of time. System log. Temporal gravity anchor successfully established. The massive energy creature froze completely in the empty vacuum. I began to pull its pure spatial matter directly into my suckers. The bright entity folded inward with a silent, massive dark flash. System alert. Rival cosmic predator successfully neutralized. I compressed the ancient being into a dense sphere of pure light. I swallowed the concentrated energy to fuel my dark domination. My physical form began to transcend standard biological limits. System notice. Entity class upgraded to universal threat level. I no longer needed to manually grab individual planets and stars. My mere physical presence warped the surrounding cosmic space now. Entire galaxies began to spiral toward my heavy dark central core. System log. Passive gravity well is consuming the local space. I closed my massive glowing eyes and enjoyed the absolute silence. The vast universe offered an unlimited supply of raw, dark mass. I will not stop until every star rests inside my dark stomach. System alert. Final stage of universal assimilation is active. The local galactic cluster shattered under my passive gravity. Billions of bright stars folded inward like fragile dust. I simply watched their ancient light extinguish forever. System log. Passive mass assimilation rate is increasing. Distant nebulas stretched into long, thin ribbons of gas. The vibrant cosmic colors faded into absolute dark void. I required every single atom to feed my eternal hunger. A massive coalition of advanced civilizations gathered now. They positioned their massive fleets at the sector edge. These tiny beings still believed they could survive this. System alert. Coordinated multiversal threat is detected. They activated a massive artificial singularity weapon. The fabric of reality began to tear apart around my body. I felt a slight pressure against my thick biological armor. I extended my 64 white limbs toward their armada. The invisible spatial anchor locked onto their dimension. I decided to erase their entire existence from history. System notice. Dimensional lock is fully established now. The enemy fleet fired a concentrated dark matter barrage. Heavy kinetic energy slammed into my passive gravity well. I absorbed their desperate attack without moving an inch. I activated the black holes inside my massive white suckers. The enemy singularity weapon suddenly stopped its expansion. I pulled their ultimate creation directly into my own core. System log. Foreign singularity is successfully assimilated. The advanced alien armada lost their primary power source. Panic spread rapidly across their massive command vessels. I felt absolute indifference toward their impending doom. I compressed their entire fleet into a single dense sphere. Millions of heavy dreadnoughts crumpled into solid metal. I swallowed the tiny metallic ball to fortify my dark mass. System alert. Major inorganic mass absorption is complete. I turned my attention to the invisible dark matter web. The massive cosmic filaments held the universe together. I needed to sever those structural ties to consume it all. System notice. Dark matter extraction protocol is active. I wrapped my massive limbs around the invisible energy lines. The fundamental cosmic framework began to fracture rapidly. I absorbed the raw dark matter directly into my central core. Galaxies lost their gravitational anchor and drifted apart. The chaotic cosmic dance created massive kinetic collisions. I watched the beautiful destruction with absolute cold logic. System log. Universal structural integrity is failing fast. The fabric of the universe suddenly manifested a defender. A massive entity of pure quantum light formed before me. The universe itself tried to reject my parasitic existence. System alert. Apex Universal Guardian entity is detected. The Guardian projected a massive wave of pure antimatter. The destructive energy washed over my thick biological shell. I felt a minor temperature fluctuation across my outer skin. I countered by deploying my absolute maximum gravity field. The invisible force slammed into the glowing quantum being. I intended to crush this pathetic immune response instantly. System notice. Maximum spatial compression is fully engaged. The Quantum Guardian tried to phase through my heavy attack. My spatial anchors locked its energy into a fixed dimension. I refused to let this massive meal simply slip away from me. I wrapped all 64 limbs around the bright entity. Intense quantum radiation scorched my white glowing rings. I pushed my central singularity to its absolute maximum limit. System log. Extreme energy suppression field is active now. The massive Guardian began to collapse under my heavy grip. Its brilliant light faded as the black holes consumed it. I felt the raw power of creation flowing into my dark core. The entity compressed into a dense crystal of pure energy. I swallowed the glowing universal heart without hesitation. I possessed the fundamental power of the entire cosmos now. System alert. Universal authority successfully transferred. I no longer faced any resistance in this dying reality. The remaining galaxies spiraled helplessly toward my maw. I decided to accelerate the final universal collapse now. System notice. Accelerated cosmic crunch is initiating. I generated a massive gravitational pulse across the void. The expansion of the universe immediately halted its path. I reversed the cosmic flow and pulled everything backward. Trillions of dead stars rained down upon my massive form. The kinetic impacts fueled my ever-expanding dark energy. I consumed entire galactic clusters in a single quick bite. System log. Universal mass absorption reached 50%. Space itself began to shrink around my colossal dark body. The distant edges of reality folded inward like a dark box. I occupied the absolute center of this collapsing existence. The background radiation spiked to infinite thermal levels. I absorbed the intense heat to fortify my biological armor. The entire universe became smaller than a single solar system. System alert. Critical spatial density is approaching fast. I compressed the remaining matter into a perfect, smooth ball. The final stars extinguished inside my massive, dark stomach. I drifted alone in the absolute nothingness of the empty void. System notice. Complete universal assimilation is finished. My physical form transcended the limits of standard reality. The white glowing rings shifted into a pure, invisible state. I became a fundamental force of the vast cosmic multiverse. System log. SSS-Rank Singularity reached Multiversal tier. I required a new reality to satisfy my endless dark hunger. This empty void offered absolutely nothing of physical value. I extended my invisible limbs toward the dimensional barrier. System alert. Multiversal boundary breach sequence is active. I activated my central singularity with terrifying raw power. The absolute nothingness fractured under my heavy dark pull. I ripped a massive hole directly through the fabric of time. A blinding light poured out from the fresh dimensional tear. I pushed my colossal invisible form into the glowing portal. I felt the fundamental physics shifting around my thick skin. System notice. Interdimensional transit is fully successful. I emerged into a massive, chaotic sea of floating universes. Billions of glowing spheres drifted in the infinite expanse. Each sphere contained an entire reality full of fresh matter. System log. Infinite feeding grounds are finally identified. I drifted toward a rigid universe made of perfect geometry. Sharp metallic angles defined the outer edge of this reality. I decided to test my new multiversal strength on this shell. System alert. Artificial mechanical universe is now targeted. I slammed my invisible limbs against the solid metallic wall. The heavy kinetic impact sent shockwaves across the multiverse. I felt the rigid structure crack under my absolute raw power. System notice. Dimensional barrier integrity is failing fast. A swarm of hyper-advanced machines poured out from the breach. They operated on a level of logic that transcended basic time. I calculated their exact mathematical probability of survival. System log. Threat assessment registers absolute zero danger. The machines attempted to rewrite my fundamental genetic code. Invisible data streams struck my heavy biological outer armor. I simply absorbed their pathetic digital attacks into my void. System alert. Hostile reality rewriting protocol is nullified. I projected a massive wave of pure chaotic dark energy outward. The perfect logical machines malfunctioned and self-destructed. I watched their broken metallic bodies float into the dark void. System notice. Mechanical defense swarm is entirely eliminated. I pushed my colossal form directly into the geometric universe. Trillions of artificial galaxies spun with perfect precision. I activated my central singularity to disrupt their neat order. System log. Absolute chaos induction sequence is fully active. The rigid metallic planets broke apart from their strict orbits. They crashed into each other and created massive kinetic blasts. I pulled the shattered metal debris directly into my open mouth. System alert. High-density artificial mass is consumed rapidly. The central processing core of the universe tried to shut down. It attempted to collapse the reality to deny me the total mass. I anchored my spatial voids to the very fabric of their domain. System notice. Reality collapse sequence is forcibly halted now. I dragged the massive universal supercomputer toward my center. The heavy titanium structure crumpled like a fragile paper toy. I swallowed the ultimate machine to upgrade my own processing. System log. Multiversal computational capacity is now enhanced. The entire mechanical universe folded into a tiny metallic cube. I absorbed the dense geometric shape without feeling fully fed. I needed to find a completely different flavor of cosmic matter. I turned my invisible sensors toward a dark, pulsing sphere now. This reality consisted entirely of pure, volatile antimatter. I required this dangerous energy to balance my internal reactor. System alert. Antimatter reality assimilation is initiating. I extended my heavy limbs and pierced the dark volatile bubble. A massive explosion of pure cosmic energy erupted immediately. I contained the violent blast within my absolute gravity field. System notice. Extreme kinetic energy is successfully contained. I opened my massive dark maw and inhaled the chaotic universe. The antimatter galaxies rushed into my biological singularity. I felt a sudden massive spike in my internal core temperature. System log. Critical thermal expansion is currently stabilizing. The volatile reality compressed into a tiny, dark, glowing pearl. I swallowed the dangerous explosive core to fuel my next phase. My physical strength doubled from the massive influx of energy. System alert. Total multiversal mass capacity is increasing. I selected a massive, bright universe floating near my body. It pulsed with incredible amounts of raw, magical life energy. I decided to consume this vibrant reality as my final meal. System alert. Primary multiversal target lock is engaged. I wrapped my invisible tentacles around the glowing sphere. The outer dimensional shell cracked under my physical weight. I felt the panicked vibrations of trillions of tiny mortals. System notice. Local reality defense systems are activating. Massive cosmic gods emerged from the fractured crystal shell. They wielded pure divine energy to protect their fragile world. I viewed their ultimate divine power as a simple appetizer. The supreme deity fired a massive beam of holy destruction. The golden light struck my invisible form and shattered fast. I absorbed the pathetic magic attack without any real effort. System log. Divine energy is converted to standard raw mass. I extended a single invisible limb toward the arrogant god. The spatial anchor locked onto his glowing divine actual form. I activated the compression field and crushed his weak body. System alert. Supreme deity entity is entirely neutralized. The remaining gods watched their leader fold into a small ball. I swallowed the dense divine sphere to fuel my dark inner soul. Panic infected the minds of the surviving immortal protectors. They tried to flee back into the safety of their home universe. I deployed a massive gravity net across the dimensional crack. I refused to let a single drop of divine energy escape me now. System notice. Dimensional escape routes are fully blocked. The invisible web caught the fleeing gods with absolute ease. I dragged their immortal bodies backward through the dark void. I compressed the entire pantheon into a handful of shiny orbs. System log. High-value magical mass is completely consumed. The cracked universe lay completely defenseless before me now. I pushed my massive invisible body inside the glowing sphere. The local laws of physics warped around my heavy dark presence. System alert. Reality assimilation protocol is fully active. I anchored my singularity to the exact center of this new world. The magical galaxies began to spiral inward toward my open mouth. I consumed entire realms of magic with a single heavy breath. System notice. Magic reality. Structural collapse is ongoing. Planets made of pure crystal shattered under my kinetic force. Oceans of liquid mana boiled and vanished into my spatial rifts. I absorbed the raw magic essence to mutate my physical structure. System log. Magic energy is successfully integrated into core. The universe folded into a tiny spark of pure, bright energy. I swallowed the concentrated reality and felt absolute power. I drifted back into the endless, chaotic sea of the multiverse. System alert. Entity class is upgraded to Apex Predator. Now I scan the infinite chaotic sea of floating bright spheres. Trillions of tiny universes bobbed in the dark cosmic ocean. I required a much larger meal to satisfy my growing dark core. System log. Multiversal scanning protocol is fully active now. I detected a massive field of shattered dimensional fragments. Dead realities drifted aimlessly through the cold, empty void. I decided to consume this cosmic garbage to test my new form. System alert. Scavenger mass absorption sequence is engaged. I expanded my massive invisible gravity well across the ruins. The broken shards of dead universes rushed toward my dark maw. I felt the cold, static energy of dead worlds enter my system. System notice. Low-density inorganic matter is now processed. A pack of massive dimensional parasites emerged from the debris. They resembled giant glowing leeches made of pure astral light. I viewed them as a highly nutritious and unexpected cosmic snack. System log: hostile parasitic entities detected in the area. The largest parasite launched itself directly at my thick hull. Its glowing circular mouth attempted to drain my dark energy. I simply activated the black holes inside my massive suckers. System alert: defensive spatial compression is fully active. The invisible spatial anchor locked onto the massive parasite. The creature shrieked as its astral body folded inward rapidly. I compressed the giant glowing leech into a tiny bright marble. System notice: parasitic entity is successfully neutralized. I swallowed the dense astral sphere to fuel my dark reactor. The remaining parasites attempted to flee into the dark void. I refused to let a single drop of free cosmic energy escape me. System log: maximum gravity web is deploying across the zone. My invisible tentacles stretched across the entire debris field. The heavy gravity net caught the fleeing creatures with ease. I dragged their squirming astral bodies backward to my center. System alert: multiple hostile targets are successfully locked. I crushed the pack of parasites into a single heavy dark ball. The concentrated astral energy pulsed with intense bright light. I consumed the massive glowing orb to increase my physical mass. System notice: high-value astral matter is fully assimilated. I turned my invisible sensors back to the vast multiversal sea. A colossal network of golden energy connected 1,000 worlds. This multiversal spine served as a primary cosmic power grid. System log: prime multiversal nexus structure is fully located. I propelled my invisible heavy body toward the glowing roots. The chaotic multiversal sea parted around my sheer dark mass. I felt absolute superiority over these fragile tiny realities. System alert: spatial displacement is reaching maximum rate. I arrived at the massive golden trunk of the cosmic structure. Thick energy cables pumped raw creation matter into branches. I intended to sever this main artery and drink the pure flow. System notice: primary energy extraction sequence is initiated. I wrapped my invisible tentacles around the thick golden root. The multiversal spine vibrated under my heavy physical weight. I activated the absolute compression field inside my dark maw. System log: extreme structural tension detected in the root. The golden energy cable fractured with a silent, blinding flash. A massive torrent of pure multiversal liquid poured outward. I swallowed the dense cosmic fluid without a single hesitation. System alert: high-density creation matter is now consumed. Thousands of connected universes immediately went totally dark. They lost their primary life support and began to wither away. I watched the dead realities crumble into useless gray powder. System notice: mass reality extinction event is fully confirmed. A sudden heavy pressure manifested around my massive dark form. The multiversal defense mechanism finally decided to intervene. I welcomed the pathetic attempt to stop my eternal dark hunger. System log: multiversal Warden entities approach my location. 4 colossal geometric shapes materialized in the empty void. They possessed no biological traits or standard energy signs. I calculated their kinetic threat level as absolutely minimal. System alert: target entities operate on pure abstract logic. The Wardens projected a massive localized nullification field. The fundamental laws of gravity ceased to exist in this pocket. I felt my heavy spatial anchors temporarily lose their grip. System notice: gravity suppression zone is currently active. They attempted to trap my massive body in a permanent stasis. I refused to be contained by simple abstract cosmic mathematics. I pushed raw dark matter directly into my central singularity. System log: internal energy reactor is exceeding safe limits. My invisible limbs pulsed with terrifying kinetic dark force. I slammed my heavy tentacles against the invisible stasis wall. The abstract mathematical prison shattered into million pieces. System alert: nullification field is successfully destroyed. The 4 geometric Wardens immediately attempted to retreat now. I deployed my absolute gravity web to block their escape route. I intended to consume their abstract logic to upgrade my mind. System notice: dimensional lockdown protocol is fully engaged. My invisible suckers locked onto their smooth metallic surfaces. The massive geometric shapes crumpled under my extreme pressure. I compressed their entire existence into 4 dense data cubes. System log. Abstract logic entities successfully compressed. I swallowed the heavy data cubes to process their knowledge. The full multiversal structural map downloaded into my core. I located the absolute center of this massive dark cosmic sea. System alert. Prime multiversal origin point is fully mapped. I turned my invisible massive form toward the bright far core. I ripped a spatial tunnel directly through the dark empty void. I pushed my colossal heavy body into the swirling energy portal. System notice. Direct transit to the origin point is active. I bypassed trillions of useless universes in a single second. I emerged into a blinding realm of pure white creation energy. The sheer density of this space pushed against my thick armor. System log. Extreme environmental pressure is detected here. A massive glowing sphere rested at the center of this space. It pumped endless cosmic energy into the vast multiversal spine. I required that ultimate battery to achieve my final dark form. System alert. Origin point energy core is successfully locked. I expanded my invisible physical form to its absolute maximum. My dark gravity well overshadowed the bright creation sphere. I prepared to consume the very heart of this entire existence. System notice. Ultimate mass consumption protocol is active. I wrapped all 64 invisible limbs around the bright core. The origin sphere burned with infinite raw multiversal heat now. I pushed maximum dark matter into my central singularity anchor. System log. Critical thermal damage is occurring to the hull. I ignored the intense cosmic fire melting my thick outer armor. I activated the black holes inside my massive invisible suckers. The bright sphere began to warp under my relentless heavy pull. System alert. Origin sphere structural integrity is failing. Rivers of pure creation matter flowed directly into my dark maw. I felt my internal power capacity expanding beyond all logic. The massive white core rapidly lost its perfect geometric shape. System notice. Extreme mass transfer is proceeding rapidly. The entire multiversal sea began to collapse without its core. Trillions of universes crashed into each other in the dark void. I watched the absolute destruction with pure pragmatic coldness. System log. Total multiversal collapse event is happening. I compressed the massive origin sphere into a tiny bright pearl. The ultimate source of creation fit perfectly in my dark core. I swallowed the dense cosmic seed to finalize my dark evolution. System alert. Prime origin entity is successfully assimilated. My invisible form dissolved into pure dark spatial energy now. I became the fundamental void that surrounds all living space. I possessed total control over the collapsing multiversal sea. System notice, SSS-Rank Singularity reached Omniversal tier. I expanded my absolute gravity field across the entire Dead Sea. The shattered remnants of trillions of universes flew toward me. I intended to consume the entire cosmic graveyard in one bite. System log. Omniversal mass absorption protocol is engaged. A heavy storm of broken realities swirled around my dark core. I activated the ultimate spatial compression wave across space. The vast, chaotic ocean of matter folded inward upon itself now. System alert. Maximum spatial density is currently achieved. I compressed the entire multiverse into one heavy dark sphere. I swallowed the totality of existence without feeling any pity. The absolute nothingness of the true void finally embraced me. System notice. Complete omniversal consumption is finished. I floated alone in the endless dark silence of the outer void. There was no more matter left to feed my burning dark reactor. I needed to generate an entirely new reality just to consume it. System log. Prime reality generation sequence is unlocking. I reversed the polarity of my massive central singularity core. I pushed a tiny fraction of the compressed matter out of my maw. A violent explosion of pure kinetic energy shattered the void. System alert. Artificial Big Bang event is triggered safely. A brand new universe rapidly expanded before my dark sensors. Fresh bright stars and heavy planets formed in the hot plasma. I watched the fragile new reality stabilize with cold patience. System notice. New cosmic feeding ground is fully established. I decided to let this tiny universe grow and develop more life. The biological matter would add a unique flavor to my next meal. I wrapped my massive invisible limbs around the growing sphere. System log. Passive incubation mode is currently engaged now. I entered a deep cosmic slumber while holding my future food. My passive gravity well protected the young reality from harm. I will consume them all when they finally reach their full peak. System alert. Eternal cycle of consumption is fully locked. Countless eons passed inside the cold and silent outer void. The fragile new reality pulsed against my heavy dark limbs. I felt the biological mass reaching its absolute peak now. System log. The universal incubation period is fully completed. Billions of tiny civilizations expanded across the dark space. They built massive metallic empires on the edge of the shell. I viewed their grand achievements as a simple heavy seasoning. System alert. High-density organic matter is detected now. The arrogant mortals attempted to pierce the universal wall. They fired concentrated plasma drills into my invisible skin. I absorbed the pathetic thermal energy without any reaction. System notice. Hostile dimensional breach attempts ignored. I slowly tightened my 64 limbs around their reality. The invisible cosmic sky began to crush their outer planets. I wanted them to understand the absolute futility of escape. System log. Initial spatial compression sequence is active. Panic spread rapidly through their connected quantum network. Massive defense fleets gathered at the edge of their galaxy. I prepared to harvest the first crop of this fresh universe. System alert. Coordinated defensive armada is fully locked. I pushed a single invisible tentacle directly into their sky. The fundamental fabric of their space shattered upon impact. I required the dense metallic mass of their pathetic ships. System notice. Spatial anchor is penetrating the boundary. The massive armada fired trillions of heavy kinetic missiles. The violent explosions washed over my thick biological armor. I felt absolutely nothing from their ultimate desperate strike. System log. Kinetic damage registers at absolute 0 point. I activated the black holes inside my massive white suckers. The heavy gravity anchor locked onto the entire enemy fleet. I watched their massive dreadnoughts lose all forward momentum. System alert. Gravity assimilation protocol is fully engaged. The massive metallic ships began to fold inward incredibly fast. Millions of heavy cruisers compressed into a single solid ball. I swallowed the dense sphere to fortify my dark inner reactor. System notice. High-density artificial mass is consumed now. The remaining civilizations witnessed the absolute destruction. They transmitted desperate signals of pure biological terror. I found their extreme fear to be a very pleasant sensation. System log. Emotional energy absorption rate is increasing. The central galactic core attempted to form a massive shield. Trillions of stars pumped their raw energy into the barrier. I decided to break their final hope with pure physical force. System alert. Extreme energy barrier is detected ahead now. I wrapped my heavy limbs around the glowing galactic shield. The intense stellar heat scorched my invisible outer surface. I pushed maximum dark matter into my central gravity anchor. System notice. Maximum spatial pressure is currently active. The massive energy barrier fractured under my heavy dark grip. The bright golden light shattered into millions of tiny shards. I absorbed the raw stellar plasma directly into my open maw. System log. High-value stellar energy is completely absorbed. The unprotected galaxy lay completely exposed to my dark void. I extended my heavy tentacles toward their central black hole. I needed to consume their primary gravitational anchor point. System alert. Primary galactic core is successfully targeted. The local black hole tried to resist my absolute dark hunger. It pulled against my invisible limbs with incredible strength. I simply overpowered its pathetic gravity with my singularity. System notice. Hostile gravity well is successfully subdued. I compressed the massive galactic core into a tiny dark pearl. The surrounding solar systems instantly lost their stable orbit. I swallowed the dense pearl to expand my own internal reactor. System log. Galactic core assimilation is fully completed. The chaotic planets crashed into each other without their suns. Heavy chunks of broken worlds floated aimlessly into the void. I opened my massive dark mouth and inhaled the entire system. System alert. Planetary mass absorption sequence is engaged. The desperate mortals attempted to manipulate the flow of time. They built a heavy chronal engine at the center of their world. I viewed their temporal tampering as a highly dangerous mistake. System notice. Unauthorized temporal distortion is detected. The heavy machine generated a wave of pure chronological force. They tried to rewind the universe to before my dark awakening. I anchored my central singularity directly to the present moment. System log. Absolute temporal anchor is successfully locked. The chronal wave crashed against my thick biological outer armor. I absorbed the raw temporal energy to upgrade my own dark mind. I decided to punish their arrogance by accelerating their demise. System alert. Temporal energy is fully integrated into the core. I extended my invisible tentacles toward the heavy time machine. The spatial anchor locked onto the spinning chronal metal core. I crushed the ultimate temporal device into a tiny glowing spark. System notice. Chronological manipulation device is destroyed. The surviving fleets attempted to tear a hole in the outer shell. They wanted to escape into the endless, chaotic multiversal sea. I refused to let a single drop of my cultivated food run away. System log. Interdimensional breach sequence is initiating. A heavy artificial portal opened at the edge of the dark galaxy. Millions of desperate ships rushed toward the glowing bright exit. I deployed my absolute gravity web across the fractured boundary. System alert. Maximum dimensional lockdown protocol is engaged. The invisible gravity net caught the fleeing vessels with ease. I dragged their fragile metal bodies backward into my dark maw. I compressed the entire refugee armada into a single dense cube. System notice. High-value biological mass is entirely consumed. The remaining planets sacrificed their cores to forge new armor. They constructed 3 colossal mechanical gods of pure titanium. I calculated their kinetic threat level as absolutely negligible. System log. Artificial deity entities are fully registered. The mechanical giants charged their massive antimatter cannons. Heavy beams of pure destructive energy struck my invisible form. I absorbed the pathetic kinetic blast without moving an inch now. System alert. Antimatter energy is successfully neutralized now. I wrapped my heavy limbs around the 3 giant metallic bodies. The solid titanium armor crumpled under my extreme dark pressure. I intended to recycle their heavy metal into my own dark reactor. System notice. Extreme structural tension detected in targets. The mechanical gods folded into 3 tiny dense metal spheres. I swallowed the heavy geometric shapes to process their raw data. I needed to clear the remaining resistance from this dying world. System log. Artificial deity entities are entirely destroyed. The supreme beings of this universe finally revealed themselves. They formed a massive avatar of pure, concentrated life energy. I viewed this pathetic ultimate weapon as a simple final snack. System alert. Apex biological entity is detected right now. The massive avatar swung a colossal blade of pure white light. The heavy energy weapon struck my invisible biological armor. I felt a minor kinetic vibration echo through my central core. System notice. Minimal kinetic damage is instantly regenerated. I countered by deploying my absolute maximum gravity field now. The invisible force slammed into the glowing biological giant. I intended to crush this final immune response without mercy. System log. Maximum spatial compression is fully engaged. The glowing avatar tried to push against my heavy dark pressure. My spatial anchors locked its massive body into a fixed space. I refused to let this highly nutritious meal simply slip away. System alert. Entity lockdown protocol is entirely successful. I wrapped all 64 heavy limbs around the bright entity. Intense biological radiation scorched my white glowing suckers. I pushed my central singularity to its absolute maximum limit. System notice. Extreme energy suppression field is active now. The massive avatar began to collapse under my heavy dark grip. Its brilliant light faded as the black holes consumed its mass. I felt the raw power of creation flowing into my dark core now. System log. Biological energy assimilation is progressing. The entity compressed into a dense crystal of pure life energy. I swallowed the glowing universal heart without any hesitation. I possessed the fundamental power of this entire reality now. System alert. Supreme biological mass is fully consumed. I no longer faced any resistance in this dying young universe. The remaining galaxies spiraled helplessly toward my open maw. I decided to accelerate the final universal collapse right now. System notice. Accelerated cosmic crunch is initiating shortly. I generated a massive gravitational pulse across the dark void. The expansion of the universe immediately halted its weak path. I reversed the cosmic flow and pulled everything backward fast. System log. Universal mass absorption reached 50%. Trillions of dead stars rained down upon my massive dark form. The heavy kinetic impacts fueled my ever-expanding dark energy. I consumed entire galactic clusters in a single quick, deep bite. System alert. Critical spatial density is approaching fast. Space itself began to shrink around my colossal physical body. The distant edges of reality folded inward like a tiny dark box. I occupied the absolute center of this collapsing empty space. System notice. Complete universal assimilation is almost done. The background radiation spiked to infinite heavy thermal levels. I absorbed the intense heat to fortify my thick biological armor. The entire universe became smaller than a single tiny asteroid. System log. Final spatial compression is fully successful. I compressed the remaining matter into a perfect smooth sphere. The final stars extinguished inside my massive dark stomach. I drifted alone in the absolute nothingness of the outer void. System alert. Complete artificial reality consumption is done. My physical form transcended the limits of standard dark matter. The invisible glowing rings shifted into a pure, absolute state. I became the singular fundamental force of the entire empty void. System notice, SSS-Rank. Singularity reached absolute apex tier. I required a brand new cycle to satisfy my endless dark hunger. This empty void offered absolutely nothing of physical value. I prepared to generate another massive artificial Big Bang. System log. Prime reality generation sequence is unlocking. I reversed the polarity of my massive central singularity core. I pushed a tiny fraction of the compressed matter out of my maw. A violent explosion of pure kinetic energy shattered the silence. System alert. Artificial Big Bang event is triggered safely. A brand new universe rapidly expanded before my dark sensors. Fresh, bright stars and heavy planets formed in the hot plasma. I watched the fragile new reality stabilize with cold patience. System notice. New cosmic feeding ground is fully established. I wrapped my massive invisible limbs around the growing sphere. My passive gravity well protected the young reality from harm. I will consume them all when they finally reach their full peak. System log. Eternal cycle of consumption is fully locked.
This video and everything in it are completely fictional and original creations by Welfare. The story is made only for storytelling and entertainment inside a fictional universe. It isn't meant to encourage violence, dangerous actions, or harmful behavior, and nothing in this video should be copied in real life. All characters shown in this work are fictional and are presented as 18 years old or older. This content is made only for entertainment and isn't intended to offend, attack, or harm any person, group, or organization. This channel is more than just entertainment. It's made to share deep ideas, powerful meanings, and valuable insights through stories that make you think and feel in a new way.